ITV Sunday at 10:20, the fascinating and timely documentary series The Monarchy continues. This week's programme charts the way royalty has tried to bind together the diverse nations of the United Kingdom with varying degrees of success. We find out how the royal family affects communities in Northern Ireland and assess the impact on the monarchy of devolution and the rise of Europe. ITV Sunday at the earlier time of 10:20, The Monarchy.
What's this? 2 Burger King logos? Am I seeing double? You got it. Buy any flame-grilled BK double and get a second for only 50p.
You got it.
You want to see a better deal than this? You want to see a psychiatrist. Get down there at the double before September 20th.
As they say at BK, you got it.
Get up, get up, get up.
To Kellogg's Pop-Tarts, put them in the toaster.
Pop-Tarts.
Revolution at your breakfast.
Kellogg's Pop-Tarts.
Oh, great flavors and they're waiting for you. Kellogg's Pop-Tarts, so hot they're cool.
No hidden extras. 3 words from Specsavers that could make a big difference to spectacle buying. It means complete spectacle pricing. Frame and lenses, whatever your prescription needs. So the price you see at Specsavers is the price you pay. And when you buy 1 pair, have an extra pair free to the same single vision prescription. So when it comes to this, you like the size of this. Specsavers. No hidden extras, no hidden surprises.
Morton 2, Hamilton 2, Berwick 2, Albion 2.
I want to be rich. I want to be very, very, very rich.
54, Forfar 5.
Come on, just one more.
Cowdenbees 2, Alloa 2.
Yes, yes, I want to be a millionaire. Right, where's the champagne?
Clyde 3, Brecon 3.
What?
Dumbarton 2, East Stirling 2.
I just want to be wealthy, then just ordinarily wealthy.
Stranraer 1, Queen's Park 1.
Oh, well, that's it then.
Stenhousemuir 1, Arbroath 7.
Well, lucky old Arbroath.
If you want to get richer slowly, but surely, you'll want a with-profit savings plan from Prudential.
New Kemp's frozen yogurt. Tastes as good as premium ice cream, but has just half the fat. Now you can give in to temptations.
ITV Saturday at 6.
The show big.
Starring Tom Hanks.
Now what?
You get a job.
Movie entertainment. Big.
And they pay you for that?
Yeah.
Suckers!
I loved your ideas on the squeezy doll line. What were you like when you were younger?
Oh, well, I wasn't much different.
Saturday at 6 on ITV.
This is Grampian, your television station for North Scotland. The news at 10 now with Trevor MacDonald and Carol Barnes.
Lord Owen sees the evidence. He says the world must act. Inflation falls again, but at what cost to the economy? Mr. Major, heading for Balmoral, speaks up for the monarchy. Consultant court case hears his patient wanted to die. And united opposition to the new Belfast Advice Centre. Good evening. The European Community Peace Envoy, Lord Owen, said tonight that ethnic cleansing in Bosnia must be reversed, although he said it could take years. He was speaking after seeing ITN's latest pictures of Bosnian Muslims in Serbian detention camps. ITN found that in 2 camps conditions had improved, but the policies which have kept detainees there remain in place. Lord Owen said the camps reminded the world about what had happened to the Jews before the Second World War.
The London Peace Conference said all civilians should be freed, but in Serb-controlled Bosnia, thousands of Muslim civilians are still packed into cattle sheds. A few, the very ill and the badly wounded, are about to be released. 69 will be flown to London for treatment shortly, and then allowed to settle in Britain with their families if they can be found. This doctor, himself a prisoner, is worried that half the prisoners who stay in the camp may not survive the coming winter. The London Peace Conference said securing the release of prisoners like these must be a primary objective. But the enormous question is, where should they go? The conference said to their own homes, but unfortunately for most that's no longer an option. Their homes have been burnt out, their jobs have gone, and if they went back to their own districts, they'd be attacked and in many cases killed. The Red Cross says all but 5 of these men were civilians. The Serb authorities say all were fighters or worse. Those with blood on their hands should be afraid to go home. There are a huge number of criminals in here who have raped Serb children. Most of these men have been in captivity for more than 3 months, with no news about their families or conditions at home. This man used to live in a nearby town called Prijedor. I don't know what the situation's like, he said. If things are as they were when I left, I'd like to go back there. But Prijedor's mosque was attacked and destroyed only 10 days ago. Now all the town's 9,000 Muslims want to leave. Several people who were too frightened to be filmed said armed Serbs came every night and took away Muslim men. Life has become intolerable. Nearly all Muslims, men and women, have been sacked from their jobs under a new law and then denied national assistance. In Banja Luka, the local administrative capital, Serb politicians defend discrimination against non-Serbs in terms that echo Nazi laws against Jews 50 years ago.
In
any country in the world, your first duty is to defend your fatherland. And during this war, there is no place in leading positions for people who are not loyal to Serb policies. But it's not just people in sensitive jobs who've been sacked. The shocking conditions exposed by ITN 5 weeks ago at this camp in Chernopoli have gone. There's no starvation. The Red Cross do supply regular food. The barbed wire's gone. In fact, all these men are free to leave the camp. They choose to stay because it's safer. But even then, Serb soldiers regularly shoot over the camp just to remind the Muslims who's in charge. Tonight, Lord Owen watched ITN's latest report on the camps and revealed that in a huge and dangerous operation, the UN will soon escort thousands of Muslim prisoners to a new transit camp in Croatia.
We've got to reverse ethnic cleansing. It may take months, indeed I think it will take years, but the world cannot accept that. That is what happened to the Jews before the war and in the Second World War. And the world swore that that would never happen to anyone else.
Lord Owen speaking in Belgrade tonight. Here, inflation's down again for the 3rd month in a row. The rate last month was 3.6%, down from 3.7% in July, and its lowest for 4.5 years. The underlying rate, taking mortgages out of the calculation, was down to 4.2% from 4.4% in July. The Prime Minister said it was steady, secure progress in the right direction. But opposition politicians, some MPs on the Tory right, and some industrialists questions if it is the right direction. They say the government should encourage some spending and expand the economy.
A reminder today of the price being paid to beat inflation as Tarmac, Britain's biggest building company, shed 300 jobs. It's closing 8 brick factories and it blames the length and severity of the recession. Tarmac says it doesn't believe in pursuing zero inflation, the government's target. But for the shopper, some clear benefits. Seasonal foods like fruit and vegetables are much cheaper than last year. Even the supermarkets are limiting their price rises. They believe low inflation is good for business.
It does make businesses like our own look at our costs, and therefore we can reduce our costs and buy better. That means we can pass these prices on. We pass the prices on, we'll have more volume, and in the long term, that's the best thing for our types of businesses.
The impact of inflation on basic spending has been uneven. In food, the price of seasonal products is down 12%, but non-seasonal foods have gone up 3%. Clothing and footwear are fractionally cheaper than a year ago, while fares and travel costs are up 5.7%. Today's figures were hailed by the government as evidence of progress towards recovery.
Well, the recession has been hard and deep. I'm very conscious of that. But there is evidence now that the economy is turning. The figures for output in the second quarter of this year
the figures for manufacturing investment, the figures for exports, which were at record levels, are all very encouraging. And the government's determination to pursue sound money policy, as reflected in today's further fall of inflation, can only help the process of recovery.
The pound in the shopper's pocket is undoubtedly going further these days. This Humberside complex, selling surplus stock for well-known stores at bargain prices, is just one symptom of the recession on the high street. But the government's critics say that people are paying the real price with their jobs.
Britain, unfortunately, still has higher inflation than most of our main competitors, but of course we've also got a worse recession and far faster rising unemployment. And I think these figures, combined with the bad news from construction and industry, reinforces the demand for the 4-point plan that we've been proposing.
Here on the foreign exchanges, the pound barely reacted to the inflation figures. Attention was focused on a surprise revival by the US dollar. But next week sees the last lap before the French referendum on the Maastricht Treaty, and the sternest test yet of the government's commitment to a strong currency and low inflation. Greg Wood, News at 10 in the City.
Mr Major is spending the weekend with the Queen at Balmoral, his first audience with her since the end of July. Some Conservative MPs have been urging the Prime Minister to express sympathy over newspaper stories about royal marriage problems, but it's not certain that the Queen will want to talk about them. The Prime Minister said today that the monarchy was an entrenched, enduring and valuable part of our way of life.
On the eve of his visit to Balmoral, a dramatic declaration from the Prime Minister. In the midst of constant speculation about the royal family, he pledged his unequivocal support for the monarchy.
I have no doubt about the conviction right across the United Kingdom about the importance of the monarchy. It is an entrenched, enduring and valuable part of our way of life. I have absolutely no doubt about that.
Mr Major wouldn't comment directly on the recent press coverage of the Duchess of York, photographed topless on holiday, nor the stream of claims about the marriage of Prince Charles and the Princess of Wales. But several of his backbenchers urged him to express the nation's support and sympathy for the Queen at a time when the press are portraying the royal family as a family in crisis. The Prime Minister's talks at Balmoral come amid an apparent change of tactics from the royals. Usually silent on newspaper allegations, the palace now seems prepared to take on the press. In an unusual step, the Princess Royal today denied a story in last week's Sunday Express, which claimed she made critical remarks about the Princess of Wales and the Duchess of York. The paper said she postponed her wedding to Commander Tim Lawrence, which would have diverted attention from other royal marriages, saying, "I won't bail out those two silly girls." But today, a palace spokesman said, Her Royal Highness wishes it to be known that she did not make the statements attributed to her or anything like them. Royal watchers believe the new instructions come from the Queen.
Damage limitation has to come into it. I think they've tried it for the last 4 months to say absolutely nothing, and nothing has gone away. I think the danger for them lies in the fact that if they don't deny something, then people automatically presume it is accurate.
As the Prime Minister headed for Balmoral, his aides stressed talks will be strictly confidential, but it's certain that press intrusion and a possible law on privacy will be high on the agenda.
Two brothers told Winchester Crown Court today that they'd made no complaint against the consultant charged with the attempted murder of their 70-year-old mother, who had rheumatoid arthritis. Mrs. Lillian Boys was racked with pain and had wanted to die, the court heard. Her sons were upset but relieved when she did die, soon after Dr. Nigel Cox gave her an injection of potassium chloride. He's pleaded not guilty.
Patrick Boys and his brother John had been with their mother at the moment she died. He told the court that she didn't want to carry on. She'd asked that medical treatment should be restricted to painkillers, and both her sons had agreed. Mr. Boys said his mother had asked the accused, Dr. Cox, to give her something to end her life. He'd replied that he couldn't do that, but would try to make her more comfortable. Neither son has complained about Dr. Cox's conduct. John Boys said his mother had the greatest respect for him, both as a man and as a doctor. Earlier, the court had heard from other members of staff on the St. Cross ward at the Royal Hampshire County Hospital. Chaplain Robert Clark said Mrs. Boys had endured days of pain and distress. Reverend Clark said that in his years as a hospital chaplain, he'd seen suffering in all its forms, but never before had he seen a patient so pain-ridden or so eaten into by disease. Staff nurse Nicola Creasy recalled seeing Dr. Cox administer the final injection, believing it to be a painkiller. Mrs. Boys had died within minutes. Staff nurse Creasy said that a short time later she'd watched Dr. Cox entering details of the drug potassium chloride in his patient's medical notes. She said she'd never seen that drug given in such a large dosage before. The medical notes were later spotted by the ward's sister, Rasheen Hart. She'd told police that she'd been shocked by her discovery and had felt obliged to report the matter to her superiors. The judge, Mr. Justice Ognall, has now adjourned the trial for a series of legal arguments. Prosecution evidence is expected to resume on Monday. Robert Hall, News at 10 at Winchester Crown Court.
The Prime Minister went to Scotland today to find out, he said, what the Scots want. He said he wanted to preserve Scotland's culture and traditions, but he ruled out a referendum on Scottish Home Rule. The Scottish nationalist said Mr. Major wasn't there to take stock, but to take the mickey.
Mr. Major's visit and walkabout in Edinburgh today was part of his attempt to take stock of Scotland's constitutional situation as he'd promised in the election campaign, a promise that helped secure his party's position in Scotland. Earlier, it was the turn of the great and the good, academic and business leaders breakfasting with the Prime Minister, who listened and noted their views.
They clearly are thinking seriously about how the Scottish office fits into the current system in London, and I would expect to see changes within that setup.
Mr. Major could shed no further light on his stock-taking.
I think it was a very good debate. There are a number of things within it that I propose to follow up with the individuals concerned, but it is just part of a continuing debate.
Mr. Major's choice of debating partners, though, did not impress the opposition parties.
I think that these are people who are handpicked by the Scottish office to say the kind of things that the Prime Minister might want to hear.
Well, I think all those who were there this morning probably knew each other by their Christian names. It was the Scottish establishment, invited for some kippers and conversation.
This is an exercise not so much in taking stock, but in taking the mickey. What he's saying to Scotland is you can have anything, we can talk about anything, except what you want.
Many people here are praising Mr. Major simply for coming and listening, a very different style to that of his predecessor. But listening, taking stock, is one thing, action is another. There is talk of a concrete package of measures on Scottish Government by Christmas, and it's on that package, if it ever does appear, that Mr. Major will be judged. UPIM News at 10, Edinburgh.
Coming up next on News at 10 tonight, American servicemen finally follow their missiles and leave Greenham Common. Also, remembering Steve Biko 15 years on, we ask his widow, how much has South Africa changed? And Mansell tunes up for Monza, weaving his way to a decision about his future.
Archibald's September savings is now on. The finest furniture, carpets and fabrics now reduced in price. Furnishings of timeless quality and style from Archibald's September savings.
Would you like to improve your needlecraft? Now you can with Discovering Needlecraft, a new fortnightly publication that gives you easy-to-understand instructions which help you progress from the simplest things to the more complicated techniques. Each issue comes with instructions for 4 projects, plus all the materials you need to help you complete one. There's even a 48-hour discount mail order service for all your materials. So get Discovering Needlecraft and see what you can do with a little inspiration.
Every day, thousands of savers receive a cheque from Legal & General. A ray of sunshine from the big company with the umbrella.
Now with Duncan & Todd and Frame Up joining forces, you get 2 opticians for the price of 1. That means twice the choice at half the price. Because at Duncan & Todd and Frame Up, you can buy 2 frames for the price of 1.
Buy 1, get 2.
This Sunday, the Sunday Times launches the biggest ever travel offer. Inside every magazine, you'll find a United Airlines ticket voucher that could get you a free flight to the US, or a domestic US flight, or even a round-the-world trip. 2.5 million free flights with only one newspaper. The Sunday Times is the Sunday papers.
Here, Frank. How's your mate getting on down at Giovanni's?
Lewis? I don't know. I haven't spoken to him for weeks.
I thought you two went way back.
Yeah. Nah, but you know how it is. Been up to my balls recently.
Oh, there's a terrible breeze, Frank! Look. Oh, shut up.
Giovanni. Frank! Ah, how you doing, wee man? I've been meaning to call you, but you know how it is. I've been up to my eyeballs recently. So how's it going? Listen, you'll never guess who's working here. Chubby Johnston. You're joking?
You know, if she booked her Nile cruises with Lumpolly, she'd only need a £5 deposit.
Get away. Oops.
The last Americans left Greenham Common in Berkshire today, returning the base to British control after more than half a century and closing a chapter in post-war history. Greenham in the 80s meant Tomahawk cruise missiles and the women who set up camp to protest. Now the Cold War is over, the Americans and their missiles all gone, but the Greenham women say they're staying.
Once this was green common land, but Greenham Common grew and became a byword for the bitter battle over nuclear weapons and the morality of deploying them. Women peace campaigners descended in their thousands and turned Greenham Common into a parade ground of protest on feminism, radical politics, and almost forgotten in the furore, the deployment of ground-launched cruise missiles in the heartland of the English countryside. But the cruise missiles debate collapsed with the collapse of the communist threat in Russia, and last year they were withdrawn. Today, the American flag came down over Greenham Common for the last time. Arms reduction treaties promised to scrap cruise missiles, and the Americans said Washington had stuck to that promise.
In the long run, I think that it did everything that the administration said it was going to do, and they kept their word. When it was time for us to leave, they left. And so I think that that mission was a success, and our mission here was a success.
But the Greenham women had burst through the security cordon to yell their defiance.
We're not protesting and we're not leaving Greenham Common. We're glad the Americans are going.
Then they were bundled away.
I want the fence down. I mean, I've been trying for 10 years to get the thing down. I want it all gone. I want the barbed wire rolled and let the boys put it somewhere else.
Their protest has now outlasted both cruise missiles and the American presence. Today, the women still face the long arm of the law, but they may now win wider public support. The women want the concrete runways and silos destroyed, and Greenham Common restored to common land again. Young Glover James, News at 10, Berkshire.
Religious and political leaders in Northern Ireland are joining forces to oppose the opening of a centre offering contraceptive advice to teenagers. The Brook Advisory Centre in Belfast is the first of its kind in the province, where abortions are still illegal and teenage pregnancies have soared in the past 5 years. This report from Rory McLean of ITN's Channel 4 News.
For the past few months, the location of the Brook Advice Centre in Belfast has been a closely guarded secret. As the finishing touches took place, those worried by a doubling of the numbers of single teenage mothers in Northern Ireland wryly admitted they've already achieved something.
One of the jokes that's been going around Northern Ireland in recent months is that where the first Brook Initiative failed in uniting the political parties of the province, the second Brook Initiative has actually succeeded.
Tomorrow, the Reverend David McElveen will lead both Protestants and Catholics in a picket of the centre. Such cross-sectarian cooperation is all the more remarkable because the Free Presbyterian Church is led by the Reverend Ian Paisley. The Reverend McElveen says he's already closed down a sex shop and the Brook Centre is next.
A number of years ago, our church was engaged in a very strong protest against a private shop coming to Northern Ireland
And for 1 year, we continued every day from the opening to the closing of that premise to successfully picketed, and at the end of 1 year, the premise closed down.
But it's not just contraceptive advice to teenagers that's triggered this opposition. The 1967 Abortion Act doesn't cover Northern Ireland, effectively putting women here in the same legal position as in the Republic. At least 2,000 a year have to leave and travel to the mainland for private terminations. The Brook Centre says it will not act as an abortion referral service, but members of the Northern Ireland Society for the Protection of Unborn Children won't accept that.
They're going to increase our abortions, and then somebody will come in and say, oh, well, there's so many, we need to extend the abortion law. And that's what's behind it. Brook is abortion by the back door.
The Brook Advice Centres have been running in England and Scotland since the 60s. They haven't faced the sort of opposition seen now in Belfast since then. And in the words of one single teenage mother we talked to, it would have been nice to have planned the baby she now brings up alone. Rory McLean, News at 10, Belfast.
Now, other news. In Pakistan, the authorities say floods have killed more than 400 people. Many more are missing. Thousands of homes were destroyed when floodwater swept through the north of the country, cutting off communications and hampering rescue operations. The French President, François Mitterrand, is recovering from prostate surgery in hospital in Paris tonight. His doctors say the operation on the President, who's 75, went smoothly. And police in eastern Germany say they fear another weekend of attacks on refugee hostels by right-wing extremists. It follows a third night of violence in the town of Quedlinburg. Local people threw bottles and fireworks at a crowd who gathered to support refugees living in a shelter there.
15 years ago tomorrow, the young black activist Steve Biko died in police custody in South Africa. He was 30 years old. Had he lived, Biko would probably have stood alongside Nelson Mandela as one of the key players in the struggle against apartheid. As it is, his story, immortalized in the film Cry Freedom, was an inspiration to millions. But long years after Biko's death, young black men are still dying in police custody in South Africa, and Biko's widow says she fears there'll be many more killings before that dream of freedom is finally realized.
The chaotic scenes at Grey Hospital in King Williamstown on Monday, as victims of the Ciskei shootings were stretchered in. Among those treating the casualties was Sister Nsiki Biko, widow of one of South Africa's greatest black heroes, Steve Biko. This woman, who's personally experienced the tragedy of the freedom struggle, was still shocked by Monday's massacre and fears that it may not be the last.
Who are instructing more deeds like those? I mean, if you can hear people like Gozo still saying they're going to do it, they're going to repeat, it looks like we must be prepared for that.
For more than?
Till we get liberated. One will be liberated, and we don't know.
We believe that in our country there shall be no minority, there shall be no majority, there shall just be people.
Steve Biko, leader of the new Black Consciousness movement, died in the hands of the South African police exactly 15 years ago. The cause of death, brain injuries sustained during 3 weeks of brutal interrogation. His friend Donald Woods, the newspaper editor, whose book on Biko inspired the film Cry Freedom, believes Biko focused the world's attention on the injustice of apartheid.
His death set off shockwaves that went all over the world and galvanized resistance in countries which didn't even seem to care very much at that stage about it. So he'll be remembered as a symbol of a young leader who lost his life, and through losing his life, in a way, gave added impetus to the cause he was fighting for.
But 15 years after Biko's funeral, similar deaths in police custody are still commonplace, over 100 this year alone. Pathologist Dr. Jonathan Gluckman, who gave evidence for Biko's family at the inquest in 1977, recently appealed to President de Klerk to stop the continued killings in custody without success.
A few have been shot. There are instances where they have been shot. But generally it is simply brutal savagery. With sticks, with batons, with stones, anything. It tells me what I've believed for a long time, that the lower echelons of the police are totally out of control.
Visiting her husband's grave today, Nsiki Biko agreed that in many ways little has changed for South Africa's blacks since Steve Biko's death.
right now we are still being oppressed. I mean, he died and other people have died before, but I feel we're still being oppressed. I feel so bitter when I think that it's almost 15 years. Tomorrow it will be 15 years. And he is here dead, and what you wanted hasn't still materialized.
On this 15th anniversary, and Siki Biko's main hope is that her husband, whose life was sacrificed in the name of democracy, did not die in vain. Jeremy Thompson, ITN, Ginsberg in South Africa.
Now, motor racing, the world champion Nigel Mansell today took provisional pole position for the Italian Grand Prix at Monza on Sunday, still not knowing if he'll be in the Williams-Renault team next year. Team owner Frank Williams said there was no significant progress to report in their negotiations. Martin Brundle, who already knows he won't have a place in the Benetton Ford team next year, was 7th fastest today.
The reason Formula One drivers earn not-so-small fortunes was well illustrated today. The Italian Naspetti losing control, he walked away, the car not so fortunate. Nigel Mansell avoided trouble on the track at least, recording the fastest lap. Afterwards he had nothing to say about next year's contract. The latest rumour that Renault had agreed to improve the offer, which may keep him in the Williams next season. Mansell, meanwhile, confident he can go faster tomorrow.
Well, I must say that I'm not happy with the performance of both the car and the engine. The engine was great at the beginning, very strong and very comfortable. And we seem to have lost power as the session went on, which no doubt we'll find out what that is.
Last year's champion Ayrton Senna was a close second to Mansell. On the day Honda officially withdrew their engines from Formula One, he was appropriately towed away.
Main news again, the EC peace envoy, Lord Owen, says it could take years to reverse the process of ethnic cleansing in Bosnia. He was speaking after seeing ITN's latest pictures from Serbian detention camps. Inflation is down again for the third month running. It's fallen to a 4-year low of 3.6%. And Mr. Major has been speaking up for the monarchy, saying it's an entrenched, enduring and valuable part of British life.
And finally, they're changing the guard at Buckingham Palace tomorrow. And if Christopher Robin goes down with Alice, he'll see that things have really changed. For 155 years, the parade has been a men-only affair. Tomorrow, there'll be 9 women too, in the central band of the Royal Air Force. But they'll all be in busbies, so telling them apart from the men could be a little difficult, says Alice. With apologies to A.A. Milne, that's news at 10 tonight. From Carol and from me, good night, and have a good weekend.
Tonight on Grampian, Janice Forsyth looks at the work of some young Scottish filmmakers. That's in First Reels at 10:40.
The AA's patrols have a box of spares that can fix 93% of all electrical faults.
Big box, is it?
Must be.
There's a new series from your newsagent that brings the best classical music to life. At only $2.99, the Classical Collection is the perfect introduction to the great composers and their music. On CD or cassette, Part 1 only 99p.
When my owners decided to sell me, they put my details and photograph in the Aberdeen Solicitors Property Centre. And you know this? I was sold in no time at all.
I was only in the Aberdeen Solicitors Property Centre for a few days before I was sold. How are you getting a new kitchen put in? Oh, very swank. I had a great crowd of you and me. It was a property centre that did it, and that's a fact. Oh, I love happy endings, don't you?
Are you using separate detergent and softener in your wash? Are you spending more than you need?
How sensible is it to buy Bold? Can it do 2 jobs all in one? Well, as a journalist, I have to be curious. So I agreed to try Bold on my family's laundry. Cleaning, I got superb results. And the softness Bold delivered meant I found no need for a separate softener. And because it's all in one, Bold costs less. So why buy 2 when Bold's all in one? My advice? better buy bold.
Well, I mean, let's face it, he was lucky, really. He was just crossing the road, same as he always does, but he never saw the car.
There's bound to be brain damage. They say we should expect it.
They said he was doing 40. She didn't stand a chance. It's just not right.
Every year over in Spain, the villages of Villabaggio and Villarriba celebrate the fiesta with a giant paella. But when it comes to washing up, each village has to cope with the giant dishes covered in baked-on grease. Every year, Villabaggio uses a traditional liquid and has to scrub and scrub. That used to be the story in Villarriba, but now they have discovered New Fairy XL. As you can see, it's amazing because unlike traditional liquids that only loosen grease, New Fairy XL unsticks it, unbakes it, and lifts it off. So you hardly need to scrub at all. So whilst Villarriba are celebrating, Villabaggio are left scrubbing. With New Fairy XL, the age of heavy scrubbing could be coming to an end.
There's 20% off all furniture except kitchens at Texas Now. Bedroom, dining room, living room furniture, pine furniture, all 20% off at Texas.
Hello there. Well, if you're planning to be out and about this weekend, I'd keep your waterproofs close at hand because the weather's in a changeable mood. We've got high pressure in the south. That's probably means the south is going to have the best of the dryness and the brightness throughout Saturday. But this weather system here out to the west, that's going to work its way in throughout Saturday and affect many northern and central parts throughout Sunday, but then sink slowly south over the south during the latter part of Sunday. Tonight we've still got a fair old few showers rattling around, heavy and quite persistent at times in northern and western Scotland, some getting over to the east. The Northern Isles staying fairly dull and damp as well. England and Wales, I think, mostly dry overnight with some clearing skies, with just one or two showers hanging on the more western coastal fringes. And a fairly chilly night in store, particularly down in the clearing skies in the south and east. And those winds, strong gales up in the north throughout much of the night. Tomorrow morning, it's a bright, dry start across much of England and Wales. Showers still in the western parts of Scotland over the far Northern Isles there. I think most places dry, particularly in the east and southeast. Thicker cloud is going to spread in from the west throughout the day, pushing some rain over Northern Ireland during the afternoon, and then crossing the Irish Sea during the afternoon, bringing some rain to Cumbria and perhaps northwestern Wales during the evening time. Elsewhere, the sky's becoming progressively more cloudy, the sunshine more hazy as we go into the afternoon, but still a fair bit of brightness. Temperatures, well, cold in the northwest, 12 there, that's pretty chilly for the time of year. 18 at the best, probably in the southeast, that's 64, but those strong winds just easing a little bit as we go throughout the day. And then on Sunday, well, we've got that rain very much through the northern and central bits first of all, but then it will sink south and southeast throughout the day, so the south becoming more cloudy and perhaps getting some rain there by tea time into the far south. A bit brighter up over Scotland, the wind certainly eased off a touch throughout Sunday. So there you are, bit of a changeable mixed bag of weather in store for the weekend. Whatever you're doing, have a good weekend.
Good evening. A Fife mother sobbed during a fatal accident inquiry as she heard her lawyer demand an explanation from police about the death of her son. After 3 days of evidence, the FAI at Cooper ruled Sandy Drummond was strangled. It took police 117 days to inform his family he had been murdered.
The inquiry into the death of former Black Watch soldier Sandy Drummond ended in controversy as the lawyer for his family clashed with Sheriff Charles Smith. Questions were asked on behalf of Sandy's mother, Mrs. Effie Drummond, by solicitor Richard McFarlane. She wanted to know why, if the police knew they were dealing with a homicide 24 hours after his body was found on a farm track, did it take them 117 days to acknowledge that to her? But the inquiry at Cooper Sheriff Court heard Sheriff Smith disallow that line of questioning. It was not an inquiry into the conduct of the police, he said. Shortly after, a distressed Mrs. Drummond left the courtroom, saying both she and her solicitor had been denied the opportunity
to get answers to their questions. The sheriff returned a verdict that Sandy died as a result of strangulation on June the 24th last year, and that death was by homicide.
That was Craig Miller reporting. The Prime Minister has ruled out a Home Rule referendum for Scotland. On his first visit north of the border since the election, he met with leading Scots in Edinburgh as part of a stock-taking process. John Major has pledged to preserve Scotland's culture and traditions within the United Kingdom.
If I produced a solution now, you'd stand up and ask me a question about how I could possibly have consulted all the people who needed to be consulted in this time. And the answer is, I can't have done. So I'm going to go on consulting until I'm sure I have got a rounded view of Scottish opinion. And when I'm certain that I have a rounded view of Scottish opinion, I will discuss that with my colleagues and we will make decisions.
The private company in charge of cleaning and catering in Shetland hospitals has told the health union COSI it will iron out problems with its contract. Gardner Merchant has been plagued with difficulties since taking over the service in July. The northeast fish processing giant Macfish has been swallowed up by a Danish food company in a £9 million deal. The takeover by Foodmark ends 6 months of speculation about the future of the firm and their 700 staff in Fraserburgh and Peterhead. Labour has renewed calls for trade union representation on offshore safety committees. The party's employment spokesman Sam Galbraith says union involvement would make the North Sea a safer place. That's all from the news desk tonight.
Grampian Television weather, sponsored by Legal & General.
The band of cloud which brought rain during the day is now moving off, leaving a very unsettled and showery airflow. Tonight showers will die away from eastern parts to leave a mainly dry and clear night. Elsewhere showers will persist and it will be very windy, with strong winds increasing to gale or even severe gale force over more exposed coasts and headlands. Tomorrow will start mostly fine and dry with sunny spells over the east, but elsewhere it'll be an unsettled morning with showers and very strong to gale force winds. Showers will become heavier and more frequent during the afternoon, though over the east they will be scattered with some sunny intervals. On Sunday, cloudy conditions will affect the north and west, while over the east showers will be interspersed with some sunny spells. Later in the day, more general rain will move into the borders region. And that's it. That's the weekend weather. In a few minutes, first reels in which Janice Forsyth looks at the work of some young Scottish filmmakers. But first, reflections with the Reverend Hazel Wilson, minister of Ardagh, linked with Blackford churches in Perthshire.
Remember I said that each reflection, Monday to Thursday, would contain a key word, and the first letters in each word would together spell the most important word in the Bible. Have you guessed it? On Monday I spoke of the light that comes into our lives when we open them to God, brightening and transforming them beyond measure. Light is a good word for God. On Tuesday I said that friends may refuse our attempts at reconciliation, the olive branch we hold out, but God never will. So we need never be afraid of going to God and saying we're sorry. When we hold out the olive branch, God gladly accepts it. Next came the story of the tough convict who became a volunteer in God's workforce, bringing many of his old gangland friends to God. God needs volunteers. And Thursday gave us a lesson in economics with the Sunday school song which tells us that love is like a magic penny. The more you give it away, the more you end up having. The economics of love. And here is our word, love, the most important word in the Bible, according to Jesus, the most important in the world. Love one another. That brings light into our lives. It opens us to offer and receive the olive branches of forgiveness and reconciliation. It turns us into volunteers with the courage to bring others to God. And it is the only economic theory that is sure to work. Love. God's for us, ours for God and each other. It's the right way. It's the only way for our lives and our world.
Once you get on this train, there's no getting off, but I am not complaining. I'm going to take you to Fort William and on to Glenfinnan, and we might even manage to trip down to Glen Cove on the way.
Join Dana on the road to the Isles this Sunday at 6:45 on ITV.
£3 million boat takes to the water, but are there going to be enough fish to fill its nets? The demand for seafood is insatiable, but how long will it be before Scottish waters are fished out? These days, the creels are often empty. The fish are getting smaller. Could a new form of fish farming be the answer? We look at the fishermen, the curers, the cooks, and the future facing them. Scotland's Larder, on Grampian, on Sunday.
Is the much publicised televised deal with B-Sky B and the English FA going to kill off Scottish football forever? We talked to Jim Farry, Chief Executive of the SFA, on this week's Put It in Writing. And don't forget, if you have a point to make and you'd like to contact us, here's how to do it.
Just write to Put It in Writing, Grampian Television, Queen's Cross, Aberdeen, 89 2XJ, or phone the hotline on 0224 637 373.
Now First Reels, a series showing the work of young Scottish filmmakers, introduced by Janice Forsyth.
Of course, I was getting a little lazy. There was nothing for me to do. Besides, Charlie was looking after the office. I can just see him there, playing with his low-grade high-tech. I'll make him a partner. The first thing he does is change the names on the door. Stone and Shields, private investigators. And then it happened. She came along with her teeth and her tits and the job we'd been waiting for.
The stylish opening of Dirty Diamonds, written and directed by David Mackenzie, and one of the 50 or so films which received financial assistance from the First Reels Fund, set up by Scottish Television and the Scottish Film Council last year. The fund aims to provide new and aspiring filmmakers from all over Scotland with that rarest of facilities, cash. The grants varied from less than £50 to £2,000, and they help to complete or improve an astonishing range of films, as you'll see over the next 3 weeks. In this programme, we'll be concentrating mainly on drama, which brings me back to Dirty Diamonds. It's a beautifully made film noir set in the ambiguous world of Edinburgh's high and low life. And there's a deeper message when hard-up and hard-boiled private investigator Al Stone gets a case from a mysterious French woman. But never mind the plot, just soak up the atmosphere.
Originally, when I started the project, I wanted to make a film noir, kind of set in a modern context in Scotland, and kind of agonised for several months actually over what kind of subject I wanted to deal with. Particularly, I mean, the real problem was it being quite a short film. You know, you can't. It's very difficult to sort of pull in some of the many of the elements that you need for a film noir.
Good evening, gentlemen.
Is your name Stone?
No, it's Humpty Bloody Dumpty.
Think you're funny, do you?
I would appreciate you not jeopardizing the future of my boots.
You're getting too old for this kind of business. About time you moved on.
Crawl back under the stone you came from.
Oh, that's good. It's funny.
Think of it as early retirement.
A holiday.
We have him in his office, and he's getting more and more kind of worked up, and he's punching his punch bag and think, come on, Stone, think. He's a mess. He doesn't have a clue. His partner's getting everything right, and he's getting it wrong and getting more and more upset. And he punches the bag, and then he sneezes. Suddenly out of the blue there's a sneeze, and that gets him into this next scene, that was just, I didn't have, up until the time we shot that, I had no idea how I was going to bridge those scenes together.
Go on, son, think. Think some playing in here. Come on, Alice, think. Come on, Alice, come on. Come on, Alice, come on.
That's it, chap. Dodge and weave, dodge and weave.
Bless you.
Mrs. Devine.
Please call me Celine.
Only if you call me Al. Celine, I need to know more about your husband.
What star sign are you, Alistair?
Huh?
I think Sagittarius.
Huh? How'd you know? You Taurus.
Clumsy. But you're in the right element.
Huh? Oh, Scorpio.
Now, you look like a proper private eye.
It's very kind of you, Mrs. Devine, but you know I can't accept gifts from clients.
Oh, Alistair, you don't have to be so honorable. It suits you.
Mrs. Devine, are you trying to corrupt me?
No, Mr. Stone. I'm just trying to see how corrupt you are.
Untouchable.
The film noir setting and character of the hapless Scottish detective are hardly original, but the plot does have some intriguing twists, and the end product is supremely professional. I think we'll be hearing a lot more of director David Mackenzie. Spider is a thriller which also makes good use of Edinburgh locations, in particular one of the city's disused schools. Made by Robert Dodds and Roddy Simpson, it tells the story of a vengeful former pupil, the Fly, who certainly doesn't view his days there as the happiest of his life.
Peace at pace. We're interested in films which are, from a straightforward entertainment and plot point of view, something that an audience will respond to and react to. And so, quite simply, we set out to try to make a film that would frighten people and would actually grab their attention. Now, there are certain scenes in the film which, from the reactions that we've got, people have found them frightening or worrying. For example, the rather sinister moment in the film when the spider discovers that he has a potential victim in his web.
You bastard. Who do you think you are?
A friend.
A friend? Don't piss me about. Come out where I can see you.
You're angry with me.
What do you want?
You're the one who has come visiting. What do you want?
The location was
the old Boroughmuir Annex in Edinburgh, up by Bruntsfield Links. From the first time we saw it, we saw some shots that some students had taken inside the building, and we thought it would make a marvellous location, and very much